Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Carrie and this is my journey to becoming a midwife. If you're interested in following along, you can hit that little subscribe button and don't forget to hit the little bell so you'll be notified when I post new content. Since this channel is about midwifery, it's going to be dealing a lot with pregnancy, birth, and babies. As most of you know, I have had 6 children and each one of those births have shaped me into the person that I am today. Each one of those pregnancies and all the stuff that I went through have kind of set me on this journey to wanting to become a midwife. And so I thought it was only fitting to have a little series talking about every single one of those and what happened during those and just kind of what gave me the desire to become the person that I'm going to be. So if you're interested in any of that, stick around. Today I'm going to be talking about my first pregnancy. A lot of the details are actually super hazy. It has been so long ago. My daughter is 15 now, so that means I was pregnant 16 years ago. I got pregnant basically, it was about a month and a half or 2 months after we got married. So we were newlyweds. We ended up getting pregnant right after we got back from the honeymoon, and it just was a really, really crazy time. We were very excited, even though it happened so quickly. It was kind of one of those things where we weren't really trying, but we weren't really paying attention either. So it just kind of happened and we were super excited about it. That pregnancy was amazing. That's all I can say. I had the best time and it did seem like it lasted forever and ever. But first pregnancies always do. And it just seems like it just drags on and on and on, but it's because you don't really have anything else filling up your time. I ended up being due on February 1st of the following year, and don't ask me how I remember that. I don't remember my due dates with most of my other children, but I remember I was due February 1st because that was my dad's birthday. And I ended up not having her until February 7th. So that is her birthday, 7. She was born a week late. And I was induced with her. I basically went through this pregnancy. It was super easy on me. I never really struggled with anything. I had a few little moments where I threw up in public or things like that, but it wasn't anything horrible. I never really had morning sickness or anything like that. If I threw up, it was basically just out of the blue for no reason. Not really because I felt bad, which is really odd to say now that I think about it, but I never knew it was coming on. It happened twice to me while I was pregnant with that baby, and both times I think I just got too full and my stomach was like, nope, not gonna happen. So since then I've gotten a lot more careful when I've been pregnant about getting too full. So I never really had any morning sickness through that whole pregnancy. I felt great the entire time. It was probably because I was so young, but it was great. I had a wonderful pregnancy. I really enjoyed it, and I think it kind of set the tone for all of my future pregnancies and made it really hard to say no to being pregnant. It just wasn't really that big of a deal for me. It didn't bother my schedule. It didn't affect anything, that I had to do. I could still do everything that I wanted to do. And so, yeah, it wasn't that hard. And so it did a little bit towards the end. I do remember I was really hot and really done and ready to just be not pregnant. But I think everybody gets that way towards the end. And I think God kind of allows that, because otherwise I don't think we'd be so ready to go through what we have to go through to have a baby if we weren't so utterly and completely done being pregnant. So I did get that way with each and every one of my babies. So I ended up being a week late with that pregnancy. I was induced. It wasn't a bad experience. I don't necessarily agree with being induced anymore for no reason. I do think that there are medically necessary reasons to be induced, but I was induced just because I was overdue by a couple days, and that just, to me now, looking back on the way I felt about it then as I do now, then I was like, just get this baby out of me. Now I'm like, baby will come when they're ready, you know? So I've kind of evolved a lot. My thoughts and beliefs over birth and pregnancy have evolved a lot since that first birth. We went in, it was late at night. They started Cervidil the night before my induction, which I guess is kind of still part of the induction. And I did that all night long. And that stuff, it makes you so achy and sore. And the contractions that it gives you are like out of the blue, horrible. And I just had sporadic contractions all night long, but it never really did anything. I think by the time it was the morning, I think when I went in, I was like 1 centimeter, but I was super thick. Like I was not thinned out at all. And so then I went to, by the time the morning got there, I was maybe like, I don't know. I don't remember that part, but I remember I was pretty thinned out. I don't know if I had dilated anymore or not. But it had done its job and softened my cervix, which is what it's supposed to do. So, and then in the morning, we did start Pitocin. And I ended up being on Pitocin, and I'm pretty sure she was born around 6 o'clock in the afternoon, or like around dinner time. So it wasn't a super long labor. I think they maybe started around like 8 o'clock, so it wasn't even 12 hours. So for my first baby, I feel like that was pretty good. But I wanted to have a natural birth from the first time I found out I was pregnant. I was like, I want to do it naturally. I don't know why. All women kind of, I feel like they go through that phase where they just want to do it naturally, and I wanted to do it. My mom had done it and I wanted to do it. And unfortunately, I did not do it. I think the first thing that made that hard for me was the fact that I was induced, and Pitocin contractions are like no other contractions that you will have. Like they are so much worse than regular contractions. And so if you're watching this and you haven't given birth yet, just know that if you're going to take Pitocin, just go ahead and plan on getting the epidural, because the pain from the labor that you get with the Pitocin is so much worse than regular labor. When your body does it on its own, it's so much worse. So I did end up I think I ended up taking Stadol with that one, and I had such a horrible experience with that. I determined I would never take that again, and I haven't for any of my other births. And in fact, it's always on my birth plan. I do not want to take Stadol or any other mind-altering drug while I am in labor, because I took that and I barely remember anything that happened between the time that I took that and the time that I started pushing. I do remember pushing and having her, but I don't remember the labor part. I still regret taking that, because I wish I could remember that part, because it's so special. I mean, you don't get to ever go through birthing that same child again. And so I'm sad that I missed the people that visited me and the family and the talks we had and all the laughter. I mean, everybody tells me things that I was saying and doing and stuff like that, and I don't remember it at all. Apparently I told my husband that his hair looked like a turkey because it was sticking up, I guess where we had slept the night before, and it was just, it was bad. I don't remember saying that. I remind him that I said it all the time when his hair looks like that, but I don't remember originally doing it, just people reminded me of it. And apparently I said some other really crazy things about socks and different things. I don't even know exactly, but I don't remember because I was out of it. So I took that, and then I eventually decided to get the epidural when it was, I don't know, I might have had a couple hours left. It wasn't super long, maybe 2 hours. And then I went to sleep, and I slept until it was time to push, basically. And I do remember being really disappointed, because I had talked to my doctors about who I wanted there at the birth, and I wanted my mom and my dad. And my husband and my husband's mother there, my mother-in-law. I wanted all of them there. And my sister, my younger sister, I wanted her in there. And when it was time to start pushing, they didn't even tell me this until before. When it was time to start pushing, they were like, you can only have 2 people in here, and besides your husband. And I was so disappointed. So I ended up just having my mom and my mother-in-law and then my husband in there, and that was it. And I still to this day wish I would have been like, absolutely not, bring them in here now, I'm leaving. But obviously I couldn't have done that because I was about to have a baby. So I'm always, because of that, I am always very, very clear when I talk to any of my providers that this is what I want, this is what I will have. And when I get to the hospital, before I'm even at the point of pushing, I make it very clear who's going to be in there. Thankfully, birth has come a long way, even since when I started having kids. And it's a lot more family oriented now. And they do let, you know, usually whoever you want in there. It also, I think it depends on what nurse you have. If you have a nurse that's really older and old school, then they usually are against it. If you have a younger nurse, they're usually like, yeah, the more the merrier, you know what I mean? So it really just depends. And also it does definitely depend on the hospital and all of that. But, so I had a pretty easy, second stage of labor, which is the pushing part. I pushed her out, I don't know, it wasn't very long. Everyone says that I made a lot of noise when I pushed her out, but I vividly remember pushing her out, and I know that I did not. I was numb. I didn't really feel anything. I think I made pushing sounds, but I didn't like scream or have any like loud, I don't know, things. And it's possible that I just don't remember this correctly because I also had Stadol in my system, but I vividly remember that part. And I don't know, like I think I pushed her out fairly quickly. Like once we started pushing, it was only like 6 or 7 pushes and she was out. There was not a long period of time. Like I think it was like less than half an hour that I had to push. So I think it was almost closer to maybe like 15 or 20 minutes. It was not long at all. Because they were like, okay, it's time to push. And they were like, do a practice push. You know, they always do that. Do a practice push. And then you start pushing and they were like, okay, stop. Let's just wait for the doctor. So, I do remember waking up and being like, oh, I gotta poop, you know, because that's what they always have to tell you. If you gotta poop, the baby's right there. And sure enough, she was. And so, yeah, I pushed her out really quick and it was quick and easy, and they whisked her right away over to the thing and cleaned her up and did all the things that they normally do with newborns that you see in movies, and that's basically how it was. It was so long ago, I really don't remember any of the other details after that birth. I just know that it was pretty cookie cutter compared to what you see normally with birth and babies. And so yeah, I do know that I struggle with breastfeeding. She latched on pretty easily, but there was a lactation consultant there and I was not impressed with her help. It was very like, why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? It wasn't like, this is what you need to do. Let me show you. And which I feel like is a lot of what mothers need. Like literally, I wanted that lady to come over and be like, do this and do this. And, you know, she was like, well, hold her a little more this way. We'll hold her a little more that way. Like she never really like helped me. She just told me what to try. And so it was a lot of trial and error with her. And, I did struggle. Yeah. I think with her, I think we breastfed for maybe 4 months. It wasn't a super long period of time. Actually, I think it was closer to 6 months. For some reason with my children, I always seem to get like I like start drying up and get like, you know, my milk just doesn't stick around like 6 months. And so I think I started that around 4 months with her. And then by 6 months, I was like, I have to switch to formula. Of course, I've learned a lot of other things since then, and I've gone a lot farther with some other children. So it was definitely not my body. It was my thought process. So I know now what I could have done to make that continue. And I just didn't at that point. I was new and I just didn't understand. I was very mainstream with a lot of the things that I did. And I just didn't, I don't know. I said, oh, my body's not going to do it. And I switched. So, I still regret that. I regret that with every one of my children that I've had to do that with, but it's part of life, and you have to do what's best for yourself and for your child during whatever that time is, and you can't live off of regret. So she's turned out great despite that, so I cannot complain. She's an amazing kid. We love her to death. The conversations that I have with her are my absolute favorite. So yeah, so that was the birth story of Natalie, my oldest child. She's 15 now, if I didn't already say that at the beginning of this video. And yeah, we love her to death. She is the one who made me a mom, very first. I couldn't live without her. So that's the story of my first child. If you are interested in this, please don't forget to subscribe and hit that little bell, because I will be having this little mini series or whatever. It will be 6 episodes long, maybe longer. And I will try to explain each one of the births that I've had and how they have contributed to my wanting to become a midwife. So yeah, talk to you later.